What's up guys, Artem MMA Analysis here, going to be talking about UFC 274 Oliveira versus Gaethje. Really looking forward to this card. If you guys don't know already, I will be doing a live stream during the card. So I'm going to be doing a fight companion so you can actually watch me and hang out with me in my chat and talk about the fights while they're happening. I'll be providing some alternative commentary. I'll be chatting it up with you guys. I'm going to be doing a live stream if you want to throw down money on this card as well, because there is some money to be had. Feel free to use my affiliate link for BetUS. You can get a 125% sign up bonus. The link will be in the pinned comment and the description. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get straight into the fights. Alright, the first fight of the night, I don't think this is going to be the first night up, but I do think it probably will be on the prelims or the early prelims. We've got Andre Fialho taking on Cameron VanCamp. Cameron VanCamp was meant to make his UFC debut against Nicholas Motta, and then I think he was like removed from the roster or something like that. That Twitter page that kind of monitors the UFC roster removed him from the roster, and now he's back to fight Andre Fialho. He's got like 9 submission wins in his career, so I feel like his best opportunity to win the fight would definitely be to take it to the ground, because Andre Fialho has got very solid boxing. I actually picked him as the underdog to beat Miguel Baeza. He didn't let me down. He knocked him out in the first round about a couple of weeks ago. And then he said, the first thing he said is that he wanted to fight again, and he wanted to fight again soon. So they've given him Cameron VanCamp, and I feel like this is going to be a pretty easy win for Andre Fialho. Best fight odds has him listed at minus 360. I expected Andre Fialho to be like minus 400, minus 500 even. I expected Fialho to be a huge favorite, because I thought that this was free for Fialho, man. And this is an easy knockout for Fialho, to be honest. I think he's going to have a great night. He's knocked out better opponents on the regional scene, even Stefan Sekulic, Lincoln Puig, Sang Hyun Yu, and he even knocked out James Vick on the regional scene as well, like to start off that knockout streak. Fialho by KO is a pretty confident pick for me, if you haven't picked it up already. He's got great KO power. Yes, he went the distance with Mikael Bahia, but I think he took that fight in like less than a week's notice. So yeah, I'm pretty confident Andre Fialho to find the KO. Cameron VanCamp, if he really wants to win this fight, he's going to have to take it to the ground and use some jiu-jitsu or use some wrestling to kind of keep him there. But Fialho, even then, although he only does have 1 submission win, he's got a pretty good ground game as well. He's got the ground game to probably get himself up to the feet. I think Fialho is going to find the KO over VanCamp in this one here. Moving up the card to another early prelim, Newsom versus Fernie Garcia. I am picking Fernie Garcia to win this one. I think that KO, that win that he got in Dana White's Contender Series, is actually the only KO win on Fernie Garcia's record, which does kind of amaze me why a lot of people are picking him to win this one by KO. 52% picking Garcia to win by KO. He hasn't shown KO power until he took the short notice fight against Joshua Weems, when Joshua Weems was taking that fight on short notice. I do think Fernie Garcia is going to win this fight, but I don't think he's going to win the fight by KO. Fernie Garcia, before Dana White's Contender Series, what he really showed to me on the regional scene was, when I was watching him, was just a lot of wrestling, a lot of decision wins, a lot of wrestling. He doesn't really throw any kicks as well. He's got that boxer wrestler style. He does have a great boxing game as well, and he does fight at Fortis MMA. Newsom, I feel like, does actually have more power in the hands. He does have no wins in the UFC, unfortunately for him. He's got the no contest to Domingo Pilate, but he does have the KO loss to Randy Costa about a year and a half ago. And then Ricardo Ramos, he stepped on short notice for that fight. I think Anthony Pettis was like the original opponent for that. So poor Ricardo Ramos, instead of getting Anthony Pettis, he got a debuting guy. But moving on, man, I feel like Fernie Garcia is going to mix the boxing with the wrestling. I think the MMA Guru picked him to win by KO in the first round, but I personally see this fight probably going the distance, with Fernie Garcia just utilizing his wrestling game that he has shown in LFA, that he has shown in the past, and just using his wrestling with his boxing to win a decision in this one here. I'm going with Fernie Garcia decision. I feel like the lines for this one are pretty accurate. You can actually get him at BetUS at minus 160, which I think is pretty good. The over-under is set at 2.5. Minus 265 for over 2.5 I think is a little bit risky. I think you're better off just playing Fernie Garcia straight. If you're looking at the bet, Tapology is heavily siding Fernie Garcia, and I'm picking Fernie Garcia as well, but by decision in this one here. Alright, moving up the card, we've got Lupita Godinez versus Ariane Carnelossi. I'm still very, very unsure on this. I think I did originally pick Ariane Carnelossi as the underdog, because I was very tempted by the underdog line. But I think my pick is flipped. I'll go with the favourite on this one. There's another women's fight on later in the card where I've actually jumped from the favourite to the underdog. But yeah, I think I'm going to jump to the favourite. I think I will trust Lupita Godinez as the favourite to win this fight. The last few fights that she has lost, I think she she took the Jessica Penne fight on short notice from my understanding, and she submitted Silvana Gomez Suarez. And then a week later, she did lose to Luana Carolina. I picked Luana Carolina to win that fight. And then later than that, about a month later than that, she did beat Loma Lookboonmee. Loma Lookboonmee is a pretty decent prospect as well. Doesn't have the prettiest record in the world, but she's more of an atom weight. But Loma Lookboonmee, very good fighter in my opinion. Ariane Carnelossi on the other hand, in the UFC, her fights they've been impressive, but they haven't been super impressive. Like the win over Estela Nunes hasn't aged very well at all, considering the fact that Estela Nunes was looking good against Ariane Carnelossi for a little bit there. But Estela Nunes, as she always does, completely gassed out. She gassed out against Sam Hughes. She gassed out against Ariane Carnelossi. She did defeat Nali Yang in a war. I remember that. I think that was like one of the first fights since the UFC's return or something like that, from my understanding. And then before that, she did lose to Angela Hill by TKO in her debut. I don't see Ariane Carnelossi having too much success. I think Lupita Godinez does have a very good ground game. She's also got a pretty good kickboxing game as well. She will be looking to take the fight to the mat. I think Ariane Carnelossi will probably be looking to take the fight to the mat as well. I can't necessarily give too much reason behind this because, once again, as I said, I'm just not super confident in Lupita Godinez. But I do know that a lot of people are picking Lupita Godinez. I feel like they've kind of changed my mind to jump on the favourite. I feel like there's a lot of value on the underdog still, but it's women's MMA. I feel like you should probably stay away. But I bet US does have pretty good odds, -180 for Lupita Godinez. Some of the better value that you can find. Over 2.5 is -280. I think that's definitely something to stay away from, in my opinion. I'm going with Godinez. I feel like I do understand why everyone's picking Carnelossi here. She does have more MMA experience, but I think I can trust Lupita Godinez to win this fight. I hope I can trust Lupita Godinez to win this fight anyway. Alright, moving up the card, Kleydson Rodrigues versus CJ Vergara. I feel like the MMA guru kind of said it best, that the UFC sees something special in Kleydson Rodrigues and they're really building him up something proper, because they're giving him CJ Vergara, a guy that won on Dana White's Contender Series against Bruno Correa. Sorry, it was Sando Curatolo that Kleydson Rodrigues beat. He beat Bruno Correa, and then in pretty brutal fashion in the first round, and then after that he did lose to Ode Osborne. Had a very good third round though. But Kleydson Rodrigues is a prospect, man. He's got great kicks, he's got great volume, he's got great kickboxing. He fights out of Team Nogueira as well, so he probably has a great ground game as well. He does actually have a few submission victories on his record. I think he's got one recently, but prior to that, a few KO wins, a few decision wins. I think Kleydson Rodrigues is going to win a decision in this one here over CJ Vergara. I have made my opinion on CJ Vergara pretty well known, because I think that the name thing that he's, or the persona or whatever that he's trying to build is just super cringy. Like, this guy is 31 years old and he's talking about how he was in high school with fight clubs and he was fighting in high school and stuff. Like, no one above the age of 15 cares, you know? Like, no one wants to follow a guy that is 31 years old talking about how he fought in high school. Like, they're just super cringy, man. Anyway, like, Kleydson Rodrigues, he's 26 years old. He's a very good prospect. I feel like the UFC are going to continue building up his record a little bit. 7-1's a pretty great record to have. Especially only at 26 years old, making a UFC debut. I think he's better than CJ Vergara on the feet. I think CJ Vergara is definitely going to drop the first two rounds and then rally back in the third. But I think Rodrigues is definitely going to win the first two rounds. I think he's going to throw a lot of volume. He's probably not going to land with too much power, but he's going to throw so much volume and so much different kind of strikes from different angles. A lot of kicks, a lot of punches too, obviously. But yeah, definitely a lot of kicks, a lot of weird kicks as well. Head kicks, spinning kicks, and all that sort of thing. I think Kleydson Rodrigues is going to put on a very good performance, and I think he's going to impress quite a few people that may not know his name in this one here. I think that the odds for this one are pretty wide. You can get Kleydson Rodrigues at -280 on Bet US. What are those odds like elsewhere? That's pretty good. That's pretty good value. You can get a -300 at some lines. I think -280 is great. The over 2.5 is -125. I think that's probably the play. I feel like over 2.5 is probably a pretty good play in this one here. CJ Vergara, I mean, he is probably the most live for a KO in this one, in my opinion. But Kleydson Rodrigues, you look at this guy's highlight reel, it's a lot of spinning kicks, it's a lot of unorthodox kicks, and a lot of unorthodox techniques. I think that he's going to put on a very good 3-round performance, in my opinion. And -125 for the over is pretty good, in my opinion. Alright, if you're watching my full card breakdown, or if you were watching my prediction video for the Ariane Carnelossi versus Lupita Godinez fight, and he said that I flipped from a favorite to an underdog. This is the fight I'm talking about. I flipped from Tracy Cortez, and now I'm picking Melissa Gatto. The more I kind of think about it, and I've seen quite a few people picking Cortez, I've seen a few people picking Gatto. I feel like the argument for Gatto to win is just a little bit stronger than Cortez, to be honest. Melissa Gatto, if she come back off after like a 3-year layoff from beating Carol Rosa, a UFC fighter, on the regional scene, she knocked out, she didn't knock out Victoria Leonardo. What I'm talking about, she submitted Victoria Leonardo and then broke her arm. The doctor come in and stopped that, which is pretty crazy. And then she finished Sijara Eubanks. She's on a 2-fight finish streak inside the UFC right now, after coming back after a 3-year layoff at only 26 years old. Tracy Cortez, on the other hand, she's got a good wrestling base, but even then, she doesn't necessarily do anything that kind of impresses me too much. A lot of split decision wins. Like, she beat Justine Kish by split decision, who then went on a bit of a losing streak, and then did beat a former Bellator champion. So, I mean, good for her. But she got the win over Stephanie Eger, which I guess is alright. And like, all of her wins are by a split decision. I don't think she actually beat Erin Blanchfield though, and Maria Igapova. She takes all her fights to the decision. She's not really the best finisher in the world. She does have, I guess, like, okay boxing for the women's 125-pound division. Melissa Gatto, to be brutally honest, I feel like her striking isn't super great either. I feel like Melissa Gatto overall as a fighter is pretty underrated, but her striking I feel like maybe could be a little bit looked at a little bit too much, considering she did finish Sijara Eubanks with that front kick to the body. Now everyone probably thinks that she's a great striker, but Melissa Gatto really excels in the grappling game. Tracy Cortez also excels in the grappling game, but off her back, Tracy Cortez really doesn't have too much. I feel like it's Melissa Gatto. If she ends up on top of Tracy Cortez, I feel like we probably could see a submission pretty quickly from Gatto. She's a very good grappler. She's very good with jiu-jitsu. Even on bottom, I feel like Gatto is probably going to be pretty strong, unless Cortez is able to hold her down and while avoiding submission attempts. It's a tough fight to predict, I will admit that, but I feel like the more live fighter is probably the underdog in Melissa Gatto. I will be picking Gatto to win this one as the underdog. She's plus 145. The over 2.5 is minus 210. I feel like that might be a little bit too wide. I feel like if you're playing something, you'd probably just doggle past this fight, to be honest. Or not even play it at all, to be fair. A lot of people picking Cortez by decision, but the fighter that is more live for the finish is 100% Gatto. I feel like Gatto probably will find a submission somewhere in the second round, in my opinion, which is why I think you should probably avoid the over-under. It's a pretty hard fight to predict with that over-under laying at over 2.5. I mean, maybe under 2.5. What are the odds for that? Plus 165. Even then, like, you're playing under 2.5 because you think Gatto is going to get the finish. Gatto is really the only one that's going to find a finish in this fight, in my opinion. So, I'm going to be picking Gatto to win this one here. I don't think that Tracy Cortez is going to be able to hold Gatto down, and even then, Gatto is very live from the bottom. And she's pretty live on the feet. She proved that against Sijara Eubanks, so we'll see what happens there. Moving up the card, we've got Francisco Trinaldo versus Danny Roberts. I've always kind of been on Danny Roberts, even when he was the underdog, but I now feel like the odds are kind of closing in on him a little bit. It's minus 115, minus 115 on BetUS. On a best fight odds, what else can we get this fight at? Danny Roberts, minus 110, minus 110, plus 100 still. So Danny Roberts still the underdog right now on every single sports book that's on best fight odds. So you can still find Danny Roberts as the underdog. You can find him at plus money at some places, minus 115, minus 115 either way on BetUS. The over-under is actually set at over 2.5. Interesting, but I do think that we're going to see Danny Roberts win this fight. I was picking him even when he was a little bit of a bigger underdog than he was, and I think that he is probably going to beat Francisco Trinaldo. The problem with Danny Roberts though is that you kind of got to trust his chin here. Francisco Trinaldo is 43 years old, but what they do say is that the chin is the last to go. I don't think that he did beat Ramazan Amif, by the way, but he did get the nod on that one there. He got knocked out by Mikel Pahea. The Claudio Silva loss was pretty controversial. He never tapped. He got knocked out by Nordine Taleb. He got knocked out by Mike Perry, and even before that, I don't know what that loss was, to be honest. It must have been another submission loss, but yeah, he's been knocked out a few times in the UFC before, so there is kind of fear kind of argument to be made that his chin isn't too great. Francisco Trinaldo is 43, almost 44 years old, and he's still doing it. He beat Dwight Grant by split decision 6 months ago, but that's still not the most impressive win because Dwight Grant hasn't looked too good recently, to be fair. He did lose to Muslim Salikov, who also is an older guy. Before that, he knocked out Joy Herbert. Unfortunately, Joy Herbert with a couple of KO losses recently. But yeah, Francisco Trinaldo, he still holds the power to potentially shut out the lights of Danny Roberts. But Danny Roberts is quite a methodical fighter. He kind of likes to, not necessarily play it safe, but he kind of likes to do things, well, quite technical. I don't really know what the word I'm trying to say, but he likes to do things how he likes to do them. That makes no sense as well. But I think the fight does go the distance. I think we're going to see Danny Roberts win a decision. But unfortunately for Danny, man, a couple of split decision wins recently. Not really the greatest look in the world. A lot of people picking Trinaldo. To my surprise, I'm going with Danny Roberts. I feel like Trinaldo does have a chance at a KO win here, but I think that Danny Roberts is still a pretty live underdog to beat a guy that is almost 44 years old. I feel like it's about time that we see Francisco Trinaldo start to slow down a little bit. I think Danny Roberts is going to use that range and that height advantage as well on the feet, and just keep the fight at range, and close it in. Maybe get a takedown if he really needs to. But yeah, I'm going to trust Danny Roberts to win the fight. Alright, Blagoy Ivanov versus Rogerio de Lima. I am going to be picking Blagoy Ivanov. I've been picking him the whole time, and I do think that he's going to get the job done here. I think he's going to win by a decision. 2008 World Combo Sambo champion, which is the outside of MMA experience I was talking about in my early breakdown. I knew that Blagoy Ivanov had that kind of in his pocket. I didn't know what it was, but now I know it's 2008 World Combat Sambo champion. I think even in that year, he beat Fedor Emelianenko in Sambo. I believe I got that. My source for that is Fight Night Picks on YouTube, so blame them if that's not correct, but I do trust them as a source, so we'll go with that. Blagoy Ivanov, I feel like he's probably going to win this fight by a decision. I feel like Rogerio de Lima's only real chance to win this fight is probably by a knockout, because yeah, he did win over Maurice Green by decision, but that was probably one of the most boring fights I've ever seen in my life, to be honest. And then he did knock out Ben Rothwell in the first round, which is pretty crazy. He knocked out Ben Sassoli, which I guess isn't the worst win to have on your record, but he didn't look too bad even against Alexander Romanov before getting submitted by him, and he got submitted by Stefan Struve as well. So 2 submission losses in the last 5 fights for Rogerio de Lima. Potentially we could see Blagoy Ivanov lock something up, but he hasn't got a finish in a very long time. The thing with Blagoy Ivanov is he's been able to kind of prove that he can hang with the top of the division. Rogerio de Lima, on the other hand, he kind of hasn't. Like, he has had the Alexander Romanov test about a year and a half ago, Stefan Struve 3 years ago when Stefan Struve was kind of still up and doing it. But yeah, split decision loss to Augusto Sakai. Doesn't look as good as it did previously, but the split decision loss to Derek Lewis, that ain't too bad on your record. He did lose to Junior Dos Santos. I believe that was actually a 5-round fight as well. I think that actually headlines that fight night. Am I correct? Yes, it is. So he's got that 5 rounds experience as well. He beat Ben Rothwell by decision. Rogerio did finish him. But the last time we got a finish on the handles of Blagoy Ivanov was a knockout over Sean Jordan in 2017. And the last time we got a submission was in 2015. So potentially, I think we could see a submission on the side of Blagoy Ivanov. We could maybe see a finish here, but I do think that the fight goes the distance. Even Blagoy Ivanov is a 35-year-old, is the younger fighter in this fight as well, which is pretty crazy. Ivanov by decision is my pick. I feel like Rogerio de Lima, if he is going to win this fight, it's definitely going to have to be a finish, and I feel like it's going to probably be a finish on the feet. But Blagoy Ivanov has shown that he's got a good chin. He's hung in there with good guys. He's hung in there with Ben Rothwell. He's hung in there with Taito Ivasa, Derek Lewis, and Augusto Sakai, and JDS over the course of 5 rounds, which was about 4 years ago as well. So that was when JDS, I think, was still kind of on the up, well, before he went on that little decline that unfortunately Junior Santos has found himself on. The odds for this fight, we've got Blagoy Ivanov minus 155. The over is set at minus 120. I like the over at minus 120 because I do see Blagoy Ivanov taking Rogerio de Lima to the ground and then winning that. But I feel like the way that would lose is maybe we can see like a ground and pound Ivanov TKO, Rogerio de Lima finding the KO blow in the first or the second round. I think over 2.5 at minus 120 ain't too bad. You know what I mean? Like, I think Blagoy Ivanov should win this fight here. He's about a minus 150 favorite or so. I think that's probably a pretty good line for him. Wouldn't really be like throwing him in as like an anchor of a parlay, but if you've got if you only want to use a 2-legger, I feel like Blagoy Ivanov potentially could be part of a 2-leg parlay, like a double or something like that, to get plus money on Blagoy. Alright, moving up, we've got Brandon Royval versus Matt Schnell. I'm going to be picking Brandon Royval by finish in this one here. I feel like the lines, though, are a little bit too wide, but I think Brandon Royval by finish is definitely a good prediction. Because it's mine. No, I'm just kidding, guys. I'm just kidding. Brandon Royval versus Matt Schnell. I am picking Brandon Royval by finish, and that is my prediction. I think that he's going to get the job done. I think he's going to get the job done inside the distance. Royval is a very good fighter. His last two losses recently have been to Alejandro Pantoja by submission, and then that shoulder injury to Brandon Moreno. But before that shoulder injury, he was still kind of putting up a pretty decent fight. He does have that submission win over Kai Kara-France in an absolutely insane fight, which has aged very, very well, because now Kai Kara-France is probably going to find himself in a title shot, probably sometime this year maybe. Matt Schnell, on the other hand, is 1-2 in his last fights. He lost to Rogerio Bontorin by decision. Brandon Royval won by split decision over Rogerio Bontorin, a very close fight. I do think Royval won it, though, to be fair. Tyson Nam split decision win for Matt Schnell as well as his last win. Like, his wins that he's been having haven't been aging too well. Matt Schnell declined fighting Alex Perez when Alex Perez missed weight by 1 pound, which I guess is kind of fair because Rogerio Bontorin missed weight in the last one, and he lost that fight. So yeah, I'm going to be picking Brandon Royval to win this one. I think he's probably going to win the one by submission. I think it's called club and sub, where he hurts him on the feet, and then he's going to get the submission. Matt Schnell, he kind of likes to keep things technical. He kind of likes to keep things slow. I mean, in the past he has been a little bit wild, but I feel like now he kind of wants to keep things kind of controlled. And Brandon Royval is the definition of fighting with no control. He's going to put on a very exciting fight. I'm trusting in Brandon Royval to not let me down and to put on a very exciting fight, win or lose. Brandon Royval is going to show up, and he's going to be the dog. He's going to be the raw dog. That's a terrible nickname, but I love it as well at the same time. Brandon Royval minus 270 on BetUS. I feel like that's a little bit too wide of a line. He's minus 280 worst value, minus 250 best value. I feel like that line is a little bit too wide. Over 2.5 is minus 110. Under 2.5 is minus 120. I feel like that could be a potential play, but definitely not something I'll be throwing my money at. I feel like this is definitely a fight where you put your money aside and you put your feet on your coffee table wherever you're watching, and you just enjoy the fight. You don't throw your money on this one. I think that Brandon Royval should win, but at the odds that we're getting right now, I think that we should probably avoid and just kind of side with Brandon Royval and enjoy the fight, because it's going to be a very exciting fight, but probably a fight where it's lined a little bit too wide at this point, and I don't think the over-under is probably going to bring too much value either side. So let's just leave it at Brandon Royval. I think he's going to get the job done. I mean, the over-under is pretty good value with the close odds, but even then, I just don't think that it's worth stabbing that when a very unpredictable fight like this is on. Moving up the card to a fight that I think is probably a little bit too high up the prelims. Yes, I know that Norma Dumont did recently main event a fight night, but I don't know how many people actually paid too much attention to that. I feel like you should probably swap out the Macy Chaos on Norma Dumont fight with the Tracy Cortez Melissa Gatto fight, or even the Lupita Godinez Ariane Carnelossi fight, because I think that's going to be a much more exciting fight than what we're going to get in just this one here. Macy Chaos on, I do kind of like her as a prospect. I have been following her career since The Ultimate Fighter, because I don't know if you guys know this, but I do love The Ultimate Fighter. That is where I was introduced to the GOAT, the greatest of all time, Artem Lobov, which is where my channel was named after, and he put on some great performances on Tough. Like, he got, I think, like a first minute knockout. Anyway, I'm getting very sidetracked. I'm picking Norma Dumont to win this one. I think she will win by a decision in this one. It's in the women's 145-pound division, in a division that doesn't really even exist. Macy Chaos on the last one had a bad weight cut. She weighed in at 148.5 because she is a pretty big girl. She's 5'11". She's about my height actually, which is pretty scary. I think I'm like 180.5 centimeters tall. Macy Chaos is probably taller than me. That is scary. But anyway, she lost to Raquel Pennington by guillotine in that one where she missed weight. She does have a win of Marion Renault, which hasn't aged well at all. She did beat Shanna Young. That win hasn't aged well whatsoever, even though Shanna Young did win her last fight. Shanna Young is still shit. And, yeah, moving on. Norma Dumont, I feel like, is on a good 3-fight win streak. Her loss is to Megan Anderson, but Megan Anderson's pretty savage, man. I don't know if we're going to see her in the cage anytime soon. But her win over Espinlad was pretty good. She put on a very good performance over 5 rounds in that one there, and probably one of the most boring or like nameless main events in UFC history. I'm picking Norma Dumont to win a decision in this one here. Not really a fight to throw money on, not really a fight to really care about too much. I feel like the one that will get a finish will be Macy Chaos on the feet, because she does have pretty good striking, She did show that on The Ultimate Fighter, but I think that we're going to see Norma Dumont win a decision in this one here, but I feel like it's about time. Norma Dumont maybe thinks about going to 135, because the UFC 145 pound division is not going to last much longer whatsoever, because I think they're going to cut it probably sometime soon. I feel like, very soon. There's no one at 145. Literally no one fights at women's 145. I don't really understand why it's still a division. Remove women's 145 and add a women's 105 weight class, in my opinion. Norma Dumont minus 240. Probably get a little bit too wide. The over 2.5 is minus 240. Once again, probably a little bit too wide to spend your money. I feel like this is for fight which you can put your feet up and enjoy, or you can have a piss break, or you can go to the grocery shop and get snacks for the main card, like this sort of thing. It's not the most exciting fight. I feel like they've put it in a pretty good place where you can leave your TV on, you can go to the store, you can go to wherever you get your snacks from, you can go and buy some snacks and enjoy the snacks for the main card, because this is probably the worst fight on the whole card, to be honest, man. I'm just not excited for it whatsoever. Alright, moving on to a very, very exciting fight. Randy Brown versus Khaos Williams. I think that this is a very good fight to end off the prelims before we get to the main card. I feel like if you took out the Macy Chiasson fight and the Norma Dumont fight and put that in the early prelims, these prelims would be pretty stacked prelims, to be fair. But unfortunately, it's dinted by a little bit. But Randy Brown versus Khaos Williams is going to be such a good fight. I'm picking Khaos Williams to win by knockout. Randy Brown's got a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I feel like if he wants to utilize that, now is probably the fight to utilize that Jiu-Jitsu game. I know he did lock up a pretty good submission over Alex Oliveira, but unfortunately that win hasn't aged too well. Alex Oliveira is on a pretty decent losing streak right now. He did beat Jared Gooden recently, which I guess is good for him. And his one loss recently comes to Vicente Luque. Same sort of thing with Khaos Williams. His one loss recently comes to Mikhail Pahea, who has very good footwork and was able to kind of use his footwork to beat Khaos Williams in a decision. I'm picking Khaos Williams to win by KO. He's got power. He throws with a lot of power. Randy Brown, I feel like, is going to be shooting for takedowns, because once he gets the fight to the ground, I think it probably will be more so Randy Brown's world with his jiu-jitsu game, with his submission game. Randy Brown, I think he did hurt Alex Oliveira before getting the sub, but I feel like Khaos Williams is probably the one that's probably going to be doing more hurting on the feet. I think Khaos Williams is going to be landing with a little bit more power throughout the whole fight. He did knock out Miguel Baeza in his last one as well, kind of revealed the fact that Miguel Baeza has no striking defense whatsoever. Khaos Williams, I think if he finds some holes in your game and he's able to hit you clean, he's going to put you out. I mean, I think he's going to find the KO on this one here. He's going to put on a pretty good KO. You can find Khaos Williams only at minus 125. The over 2.5 is minus 105. I don't think this fight is going over 2.5. I think we're probably seeing under 2.5 either way. At minus 125 is pretty decent. I think you're probably better off just throwing down on Khaos Williams straight, because he has got a couple of decision wins recently, especially one over Matt Semmelsberger, who is very live in general. What else can you get him at? Yeah, minus 125 seems to be the best value that you can find Khaos Williams at, so maybe you should jump on BetUS and throw down at minus 125 if you're confident in Khaos Williams, because I do think that we do see a Khaos Williams knockout in this fight here. Moving on to the main card, this is where shit gets real, man. This is where shit hits the fan. UFC 274 main card, Donald Cerrone versus Joe Lauzon is your opener. I'm very, very excited to watch this fight, because I know everyone's probably not going to be too happy about this pick, but I'm picking Joe Lauzon, man. I'm picking Joe Lauzon as the underdog. I've seen a few other people picking Joe Lauzon, but I'm pretty proud to say I've been on Joe Lauzon the whole time. So I feel like if Donald Cerrone does win, which a lot of people are picking as well, I probably will look like a little bit of an idiot, but I feel like the fact that the fight is at 155 pounds probably plays a little bit into Joe Lauzon's favour in this one here. Donald Cerrone hasn't fought at 155 for a while. In fact, I can't really remember his last 155 pound fight. Was it against Anthony Pettis? Or was it against Justin Gaethje? I'm not too sure, but it was one of them. Anyway, the point is, it hasn't been for a while, so now he's going to have to cut weight. He showed some pretty bad... what's it called? He showed bad durability against Alex Morono. That was a very hard to watch fight. A standing TKO almost about a year ago against Alex Morono, pretty early on into the first rounds. Joe Lauzon, on the other hand, though, he hasn't fought for about 2.5 years. But that Jonathan Pierce fight, that was a moment for Joe Lauzon. That really was a great fight. He I said he ground and pounded Jonathan Pierce out to win that fight, but really the way that fight really started was the the stand up. Joe Lauzon hurt him pretty badly in the stand up, and then managed to utilize his grappling and ground and pound him out. I feel like we are going to see some very good grappling sequences probably from both of these guys. But I don't think that Donald Cerrone is going to be able to take Joe Lauzon's best shot. You could probably say the same thing about Joe Lauzon though. Can Joe Lauzon take Donald Cerrone's best shots? You know, like he got retired to Chris Gudishmarker. He got knocked out by Guida, and then he did lose a decision to Stevie Ray. But this was years ago. Joe Lauzon has not been an active fighter whatsoever. But I do think that he's going to beat a guy like Donald Cerrone, who is actually older than Joe Lauzon in this one here. A matchup that never really ended up happening, that could have probably happened about like 6, 7, 8 years ago, you know what I mean? But Joe Lauzon, I feel like, was always kind of about here, and Donald Cerrone was always kind of more up the top of the division. But now that they're older, now that they're veterans, now that they've kind of been losing a few fights, it's about time that they can kind of fight together and put on a pretty good show for the fans. I am picking Joe Lauzon. I think that he probably will finish Donald Cerrone, in my opinion, here. I think we will see good grappling exchanges either way as well. Donald Cerrone obviously has a great jiu-jitsu game. He's been fighting in jiu-jitsu tournaments as well, somewhat recently. Joe Lauzon, on the other hand, I don't necessarily think that he's kind of been doing anything, which I guess could be used as an argument for him to not win. But yeah, I can see Joe Lauzon winning this fight here. He did look great against Jonathan Pearce. He was a slight underdog against Jonathan Pearce. He almost knocked out Jonathan Pearce on the feet, and then he was able to utilize his grappling. He locked up Jonathan Pearce into a position that JSP could not get out of, and Joe Lauzon rains down a bit of ground and pound and won by TKO on that one there. Joe Lauzon by finish is my pick. I don't really know if it's going to get a sub or a KO. Probably more so the KO, but I guess maybe Donald Cerrone could KO Joe Lauzon as well. These are two guys that probably don't necessarily have the greatest durability at this age, and the fact that they're going to probably both be cutting down to 155 as well, I feel like it's probably going to hurt Donald Cerrone a little bit more. Joe Lauzon plus 140 on BetUS, which is my affiliated betting partner if you wanted to sign up, with the link in my description. But moving on, let's have a look at what odds we can get elsewhere though. Oh man, I cannot read. What is wrong with me? Okay, I can't see. I can't read. For some reason I genuinely cannot find it. That is really embarrassing. But anyway, the video still stands. The video still stands. I'm not cutting that out. I'm really sorry guys. I'm picking Joe Lauzon to win. Alright, now we've got a fight, a rematch set about 7 years in the making. This is crazy to think about. Ovince St. Preux versus Shogun Rua are fighting again in 2022. And the first time they fought was in 2014, late 2014, where OSP, as the slight underdog, knocked out Shogun Rua. But yeah, since then, both guys have kind of gone their separate ways, and now they're going to meet back up again. Most people are picking Rua to win that one, and now I believe most people are picking St. Preux to win this one, because St. Preux is going to be coming into this guy in this fight, in my opinion, the least damaged guy. Shogun Rua, like, he went to a draw with Paul Craig, which is pretty good for him really, but then they did the rematch eventually, and Paul Craig looked really good. Paul Craig did definitely hurt Shogun Rua a little bit in that one there. It's really kind of a matter of who do you think has done more. I've seen some people say that they think that OSP has done more and that Rua could probably win this fight. But I think Ovince St. Preux probably will beat Shogun Rua in this one here. It's very hard to kind of make a prediction though, because same sort of thing with Joe Lauzon and Donald Cerrone, two older guys. I feel like it is actually quite hard to make a serious pick. But I think OSP probably will be going into this fight with the confidence, knowing that he has beaten Shogun Rua so easily the first time. He knocked him out in 36 seconds in the first time they fought. He's a very big favorite as well. I feel like the line might be a little bit too wide for this one, because it's just so hard to tell how these guys are going to look. He did get knocked out by Tanner Boser about 9 months ago. He got knocked out by Jamal Hill. Jamal Hill is a very special talent at 205. He does have the win over Lonzo Minifield, which is pretty good. And he did beat Mikhail Oluksashik by submission as well 2.5 years ago. But I think I'm going to be picking Ovince St. Preux to win this fight, probably by some sort of TKO. It's a good question how Shogun Rua is still fighting. He's almost 41 years old now. He took a bit of damage in the Paul Craig fight. It's pretty hard to... It's just a hard fight to make a prediction on, in my opinion. It's not a fight I have a good read on, and I will admit that right now. If you did want to throw down the money though, over 1.5 is plus 120. I feel like that is probably your best bet, plus 120 at over 1.5. But apart from that, I just can't give you a confident pick. I'm really sorry, Taint. Ovince St. Preux is my pick. I'm not going to throw down a lot of confidence on that one though, but I do think that we're going to see Ovince St. Preux get the job done for a second time over Mauricio Shogun Rua. But if Mauricio Shogun Rua does win, maybe we could get a trilogy at like UFC 275, like UFC 276 or something like that. That would be kind of funny. But I do think we're going to see Ovince St. Preux win this fight. Alright, now we're getting into a potential fight of the night. Michael Chandler versus Tony Ferguson. Michael Chandler's only been in the UFC for 3 fights, and he's already kind of secured himself as one of the biggest names in the lightweight division, one of the biggest names in the UFC in general, actually, to be fair, because he's done a very good job and marketed himself and made a very good job of becoming a very likable character. Obviously, the UFC likes him because he did the UFC a lot of favors when he stepped in. I think when he got first signed, he was the replacement for Gaethje Khabib, and he weighed in for that. And then he fought Dan Hooker. He beat my favorite fighter, and then he fought Charlie Olives for the belt, and then since then he's put on a fight of the year. I think it was UFC's fight of the year, but in my opinion, a fight of the year contender against Justin Gaethje, which was a pretty crazy scrap, really. He's 36 years old. On the other hand, he's fighting Tony Ferguson. Oh, dude, Tony Ferguson. Unfortunately for us, we never got to see Tony Ferguson versus Khabib. That's always the one that got away. That's always the fight that got away. Unfortunately, the fight that we don't necessarily get to see. I don't think we're ever going to see Tony Ferguson versus Khabib, and I don't want to see Tony Ferguson versus Islam Makhachev. Tony Ferguson unfortunately found himself in a 3-fight losing streak, starting with the TKO loss to Justin Gaethje, where he didn't really get knocked out. It was just too much. The referee stepped in. I think it was a good ref stoppage. Tony Ferguson was just taking a lot of punishment towards the end of that fight. Lost a decision to Charlie Olives when Charlie Olives almost broke his arm at the end of the first, and then he lost to Benio Dariush, and Benio Dariush was up and coming at the moment, you know, like potentially a title challenger in the future is Benio, making his way up quietly in this very stacked division. But yeah, I'm picking Michael Chandler to win. I feel like minus 400 is very, very wide, but I think it's mainly because the fight is 3 rounds. If this fight was 5 rounds, I would actually kind of I wouldn't be picking Tony Ferguson, but I would say to you guys, maybe look at Tony Ferguson if the fight reaches the 4th round as like a live bet, because Michael Chandler gassed. He did gas in the fight with Charlie Olives. That was after 1 round. He gassed after 1 round Charlie Olives. I feel like 3 rounds with Tony Ferguson towards the end of that, because Tony Ferguson will put on a very high pace. Maybe if the fight was to enter a 4th and 5th round, I would say Michael Chandler might gas out and Tony Ferguson could finish him off towards the end. But this is a 3-round fight. Tony Ferguson's manager absolutely hates him for putting him in a 3-round fight with Michael Chandler. I think that Michael Chandler will find the KO over Tony Ferguson, but I do feel like Tony Ferguson probably has more tools to potentially win. I feel like if he does manage to get some takedowns and do his own sort of thing there, we could see him win. Tony Ferguson, though, I feel like at this point, he's 38 years old. Unfortunately, we never saw the Khabib fight. We never got to see the one that got away. I'm picking Michael Chandler to win by KO on this one. Ferguson probably is a live underdog in the 3rd round if Michael Chandler looks like he's gassed, because I think Michael Chandler could gas, but I feel like it's only a 3-round fight. I feel like even at the end, if this fight goes the distance, everyone's going to say, why wasn't this 5 rounds? Because I wish that this was 5 rounds. I think everyone wishes it was 5 rounds. But anyway, we can't cry about that. I feel like the under 2.5 at minus 155, that's a little bit wide. Even Michael Chandler at minus 400 is a little bit wide. I don't know what Michael Chandler inside the distance will be. Maybe minus 155 at under 2.5 actually ain't that bad now that I think about it, to be honest. You know what, that's actually not that bad. Minus 155 at under 2.5 is actually probably pretty good odds, to be fair. But I'm not going to be throwing any money on this one. I'm going to be sitting up. I'm going to be putting my legs up. I'm not actually, because I'm live streaming a fight companion for this event. But I'm going to be enjoying the fights, you know. I'm going to be enjoying the fight with no money on it. Alright, moving on to the first title fight of the night. Rose Namajunas versus Carl Esparza, the rematch. And before we get into it, I'm just letting you guys know I will be doing a fight companion so you can watch me watch me and watch the chat talk about the fights as we watch the fights live, get my live reactions, get an alternative commentary as well, and kind of join like a chat room as we watch the fights. Now that that's out of the way, let's go. Rose Namajunas is my pick. I feel like minus 200 is wider than I thought the odds were going to be. What can you get her? You know, minus 190 at BetUS, and what else you can get her at? Yeah, minus 200, minus 190. Minus 190 is actually the best value you can get her, and minus 185 Bet365. So BetUS maybe could be your go-to. But yeah, I'm picking Rose Namajunas to win this fight. I feel like we're seeing a decision, but we could potentially also be seeing a submission. So Yeah, take with that information what you will, but I think, or even a KO. Like, Rose Namajunas at this point is so well rounded. I feel like since the first fight, she's definitely made more improvements than Carla Esparza has. Rose Namajunas, since that first fight, has improved leaps and bounds. She's 4-1 in her last fight, with the one loss coming to Jessica Andrade, which she did avenge in the recently. Sorry, I can't speak English today. But yeah, she avenged that loss against Jessica Andrade by split decision in a fight which I did think that she did win. And then she came back, she beat Weili Zhang by KO, and then she did a rematch with Weili Zhang and won a split decision there. But I do think that there's argument to be made either side in the Namajunas Zhang fight. I think that Namajunas did win it when I was watching it live. Watching it back though, it's still a close fight. It could go either way. Carla Esparza's found herself on a 5-fight win streak, including wins over Yan Jianan, Marina Rodrigues, even Michelle Waterson as well, and Alexa Grasso and Verona Danjarova. 5 pretty good wins to have, especially 5 back-to-back wins is looking very good. Well, you all know what Carla Esparza is going to do. Rose Namajunas knows what Carla Esparza is going to do, and let's look to wrestle with Rose Namajunas. I feel like Rose Namajunas is going to be working on some counter wrestling. She's going to be working on bottom drills, working on submissions from the bottom as well, and also she's going to be trying to piece up Carla Esparza on the feet, because I do believe that the difference in skill between Rose Namajunas and Carla Esparza on the feet is going to be quite night and day. I don't think Carla Esparza is going to be ready for the stand-up of Rose Namajunas this time around. I'm picking Rose Namajunas to win this one. Potentially could be looking at a KO sub or a decision. I don't necessarily have much confidence in a prop, but I think that overall you probably could put her in a little parlay, maybe a 2-leg parlay with someone else. Rose Namajunas minus 190 is pretty good odds in my opinion. I think minus 200, anything higher than that, minus 250, you might have to stay away at that. Minus 200 is the over 4.5, plus 160 is the under 4.5. I don't know about that. I feel like you probably best just stay away from the over-under on this one and maybe just pick Rose Namajunas straight if you were to throw down a little bit of cash. Moving on to the main event, Charles Oliveira versus Justin Gaethje. Once again, I will just quickly reiterate that I will be doing a fight companion for this card, so if you want to watch some alternative commentary, join the chat room or something while the fights are going on, join my live stream. I will be live while the fights are on. It'll kind of be me with my little overlay, and we'll be talking it up. We'll be talking about the fights, making our predictions live. So anyway, let's just move on to the fight. I'm picking Charlie Olives to win this one, man. Oh, dude, I'm 2-0 with Charlie Olives picks on my channel so far, and I'm looking to go 3-0, so hopefully Charlie Olives does pull it off over Justin Gaethje in this one here. Justin Gaethje, I think, is probably a very live underdog in the fact that Charles Oliveira is quite hittable on the feet, and if Justin Gaethje lands, he does land with a decent amount of power. But the problem with Justin Gaethje, though, as well as landing a lot of power, he receives a lot of power. He takes a lot of damage himself, and it's starting to kind of add up, man. Even like the press conferences and interviews, the way that he talks is starting to kind of scare me a little bit, man. Especially the fact that now he's going to have to cut down to 155 flat. So maybe the weight cut hopefully won't affect him too much in that as well. I don't think it will, because he's never really had problems in the past. But I don't really like his attitude either. Like, he's like been begging for a title shot since he beat Michael Chandler, and even before he beat Michael Chandler, he was begging for a title shot as well, even though he got dominated by Khabib. Like, Khabib Nurmagomedov dominated Justin Gaethje, and even now Justin Gaethje is saying that like Khabib had to go through hell to beat him. But no, that wasn't the case. Khabib absolutely dominated Justin Gaethje, because Justin Gaethje was so scared of the grappling. Yes, I know Justin Gaethje has absolutely insane wrestling. He's got a great wrestling credentials and a great wrestling background, but I think that he's going to be a little bit scared of the jiu-jitsu that Charles Oliveira is going to pose on him, man. I don't think that we're going to see Charles Oliveira struggle too much if the fight ever hits the floor and Charles Oliveira is on top of Justin Gaethje. I think he's going to work very well for a submission. That's what I like about Charlie Olive's jiu-jitsu. He's always looking to improve his position. He's always looking for a good position. He's always looking for a submission as well. He's very active on top. Not necessarily so much in the second round of the Dustin Poirier fight, to be fair. But yeah, just Charles Oliveira is very good in my opinion. I think he's going to be good enough to beat a guy like Justin Gaethje by submission in this one here. Justin Gaethje definitely probably a pretty live underdog in the fact that Charles Oliveira is quite hittable on the feet. He does take a little bit of shots. He did get knocked down by Michael Chandler, but Justin Gaethje also got hurt by Michael Chandler as well. So I'm picking Charlie Olives by submission in this one. What's the over-under lined at? The over-under is lined at 1.5. Oh man, that's crazy for this fight. Yeah, people are expecting this fight to go early, finish early. I don't think that this fight's going to go the distance either, to be honest. But over 1.5 at minus 190. That's not too bad, to be fair. I feel like that's actually not too bad overall, to be fair. I think that I will be picking Charlie Olives obviously to win by a submission at one point in the fight. I'm probably more so thinking the second or third round, so that makes the over 1.5 a little bit of a risky bet. So I'd say stay away from that. In fact, if you want to have a really good night, a stress-free night when it comes to the main event, I think you'd probably just be best to stay away from this main event, because this would be a great fight to kind of kick your legs up, put them on the coffee table with some snacks, and just sit back and enjoy a very exciting fight, because this is such a good fight. This is definitely a pay-per-view selling fight. This is the main event of the pay-per-view, of course, so I'm definitely picking Charlie Olives to win this fight, man. I think we're going to see him utilize some reach a little bit over Justin Gaethje. I will give the power advantage to Gaethje. I think just in general, the striking advantage probably does go to Gaethje as well. He's going to be able to chop up with a lot of leg kicks. Charlie Olives is relatively susceptible to leg kicks. He does check leg kicks, but even when he does check them, I still think that the leg kicks still hit the calf anyway. So, yeah, I think Justin Gaethje is probably going to be looking for a lot of leg kicks in this one here. So Charlie Olives probably does want to get the fight to the ground. Yeah, Charlie Olives submission is my pick. I don't know what the odds for that exactly would be, but it's weird because the odds I don't think are actually on this website on Best Fight Odds, which is so strange. So, yeah, I'm picking Charlie Olives to win the fight. On Best Fight Odds, he's minus 170, which I feel like is probably pretty good value for Charlie Olives. I'm going with Charlie Olives by submission. I think he's going to get the job done.